Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the first day of Merchant Payments Ecosystem 2026. Please join us in welcoming MPE Chair Lady Ms. Ruth Wandhöfer and the Head of MPE Production, Mr. Filip Rasovsky.
Good morning, Berlin. Welcome to MPE 2026. Merchants, processors, payment rails, innovators, we're all here to meet at the nexus of payment evolution. Now, quick question for the audience. Any of you merchants here that had any sale abandoned at checkout? Is that still a thing? Hands up. Maybe too many options, different currencies, abandonment, red flags, last second because of fraud risk. Well, this is maybe still an issue, isn't it, Filip?
It is, it
Yeah?
is. But that's the old world. Fragmented rails, cards, ACH, SEPA, wallets. Well, we have real-time payments. They're fast, but still bringing some issues. We deal with the fraud that takes us 3% of the revenue. But tokenization, orchestration, data analytics, these are band-aids. But we are still stitching the solutions manually and looking at the Asia where the payments happen in milliseconds. Most of you demanded to talk about Agentic AI this year, and you are right so, but hold on to that talk.
Because there's a new world out there, and I'm not talking about PSD3, PSR, account to account, the digital euro. I'm talking about your digital wallet brain, your AI agent, which actually in the near future or already today is going to pick the most effective routing, connect to your merchant API, process in real time on the blockchain, choose the currency that is most effective for the transaction. All of this is happening totally without friction. There is no checkout. It is just the agent dealing with it. And you could end up with a transaction where you actually paid in USDT rather than a fiat euro or a digital euro. Of course, this is the brave new world, but it comes also with risks. We have seen agents not doing what customers want. We've heard about disputes already happening in the market. My AI agent bought these silver boots, but I wanted green ones. Or I didn't want to pay in US dollar, stable coins, I wanted to pay in euro. So these things are happening today. And if we think about those risks, we also, of course, have the other side of the digital world, cyber as a risk. AI agent gets poisoned from the top. We have deepfakes. We have a lot of new risks when you have suddenly a machine connecting to your treasury. When you hand over the keys to your money, you better make it a secure transaction. So these are the two phases of digitization, the old world and the new world. And the big question then is, what else is going on? Because the regulators don't stop. Don't be asleep at the wheel. PSD3 and PSR are coming, they're going to happen, they will be decided and published and implemented by the end of this year, early next year. Of course, we have the Digital Markets Act, we have the AI Act, we have now regulation of buy now, pay later with the new consumer credit legislation in Europe. We will have a digital euro that's being worked on. We have incredible uptake with account-to-account transactions and the Euro wallet layout and adoption in the market. So all of this is happening at the same time. But what's the recipe for success in this world, which is clearly, bifocal in a certain way? It is payment orchestration. It is real-time fraud monitoring. It is making sure that you are sharing data with the industry, even that is anchored in legislation now. And of course, it is also to make sure that you prevent cyber attacks before they happen, that you have direct threat intelligence that you orchestrate into your endpoints so that you don't have an attack mid-transaction, but you actually stop it before the attack is even launched against you.
So when preparing MPE this year, most of you said, 60% actually, said that you want to hear about Agentic AI mostly. But what about the other 40%? And we are here to find out. You are here to check. You are the reality check.
So Berlin, what's it going to be? Old world, new world, Agentic AI, payment orchestration? We'll have plenty of time in the next few days to discuss exactly that. Please tweet us hashtag MPE 2026, and have an awesome MPE. Welcome to Berlin, everybody.
Welcome to Berlin.
I need my hand back to look at the notes. Right, let's get the panel up. Totally realized that my notes are over there. So everybody that is joining me in the first session, please come up on stage.
One there?
Free seating, free seating.
Okay.
Anywhere you want.
I think you're supposed to sit here.
No. I can mix in the middle. Here we go. So, right, get out my notes first. See, it's still old school. It's not AI doing that just yet, which is kind of good, you know. Let's keep it real here. Right. So, welcome to the first session of this conference. We really want to basically set the scene with this first session. You know, what is the future focus? What is here to redefine merchant payments and the landscape as we see it evolving? And I have an amazing panel with me, so I'll start with the far right over there. We have Juan Garrido from Bank of America. We have Brice van der Walle from Mastercard. We have Ugnè Buračienè from Payabl. We have Anurag Chitlangia from Uber, and we have Atze Faas from EuroCommerce. And we will hear quite a lot. We'll also have presentations following this session. But I'd like to first of all start with everybody giving a bit of a context on your organization, what you see as the major trends for merchant payments happening right now. And then we go through a few questions to basically bring to light what we're going to be looking at this week at the conference. So I'll start with Atze.
Oh, thank you very much. Good morning, everybody. Great to be here again. So I work for EuroCommerce. It's the trade association for retail and wholesale in Europe, representing big brands like the IKEAs, Carrefours, H&Ms of this world, but also millions, around 5 million of SME through the national associations. So it's really great that it is merchant payments ecosystem. I think the emphasis on merchants cannot be big enough. And really, you know, if I sort of look at the future going forward, if you allow me, Ruth, I think the merchants are going to be much more assertive than they have been, I think, in recent decades. So you see different initiatives coming up. You see big merchants setting up their in-house PSPs, you know, Carrefour, Rewe, Otto, BP, my former employer. So that's one development, you know, take matters in your own hand. There's another initiative ongoing where you see building alliances to joint purchasing, demand pooling, and that kind of stuff. So there's an initiative called European Commerce and Innovation Council that is creating like a buying alliance like the retailers would do vis-à-vis the Unilevers and the Nestlé's of this world. And then last but not least, you see a professionalization in the industry. I used to call myself Chief Payment Officer in BP with the quotation marks because it was a little bit of a joke. The senior folk in BP didn't like that I do that, but I thought it was the right thing to do. And I know Victoria is here working on a similar initiative here. I think there should be a more recognition of the role of payment officers in merchants, professionalize the let's say the role, the function within the company across business lines. So that would be sort of my outlook on, let's say, the future forces in payments from the merchant perspective. Of course, there's much more to say, but I'll pass on the baton.
Excellent, excellent. Right. I'll next jump to Ugnè to get a perspective on payable. Thank you.
Hi everybody. Good morning. Thank you for being here so bright and early. So my name is Ugnè Buračienè. I'm Group CEO of Payabl. We are all-in-one payment platform. We focus on providing seamless experience to our clients by providing all of the financial all of the options for them to transact, meaning accept, payout, or even banking as a service transactions as well. So My outlook for the future and where I see the demand from our clients and our merchants is that I will probably not say anything groundbreaking, that it is very fragmented and very complex, and it's getting more and more difficult for our merchants to operate globally and seamlessly. So where we see the industry going and where we see also the demand from our merchants is this help and assistance with getting all of the complexity out of the day-to-day transactions for merchants, and that not only means that just accepting payments, but also making sure that the cash flow runs fine, that you have payout options, and that you can seamlessly operate in anywhere that you like. And I think the companies that are helping merchants do that, I think these are the ones that really looking ahead and making this complexity a little less complicated for them.
Excellent, excellent. I think, Juan, you probably can echo some of those comments from a Bank of America perspective, right?
Absolutely. Good morning, everyone. Juan Garrido. I lead product for merchant acquiring at Bank of America. Very similarly, some of the challenges that we've noted, especially how we go to market at Bank of America, is that we follow very large global clients. So we partner very closely with our treasury teams, and we bring the whole bank to organizations. That includes our treasury products, but then also including merchant acquiring as a wedge. So you are able to hear a lot of some of the challenges that global merchants are currently facing. I would say number one continues to be the cost of payments. And that's actually grown. Previously, it's centered around the merchant discount rate. Now it's all around the payments P&L. So start thinking about chargebacks, cost of tokenization, cost of operations, and being able to continue to keep payments going are top of mind for clients. Also, the regulatory landscape continues to be top of mind. Global merchants are looking for a one-stop shop from an institution where they're able to light up in various different countries and ensure that the partners that they partner with are able to keep them compliant regardless of the region that they're looking to do business in. Additionally to that, you have digital wallets, alternate payment method, local payment methods that merchants are looking to make sure that they enable, and they want to ensure that they provide the most options for their consumers, but doing so in a way that also makes it frictionless, but also reduces fraud. So you have a mixture of different components of it that are challenging to clients. And the last one that I will mention would be cross-border. There's a lot of complexities there. It's very costly to be able to process, settle in different currencies. The time that it takes for them to receive settlement continues to be a challenge. So we have a major opportunity there as well.
Yeah. So complexity keeps increasing, more choice for customers. Somehow we still don't have a global payment system. I mean, I've been in payments for 25 years now, and we're all still looking for it. But we have lots of promises, and I guess that complexity of orchestrating, connecting, and also monitoring and managing the fraud that comes with it is really, really the essence. So Anurag, I'm really excited from a global client perspective. I mean, Uber is all around the world, right? We came from the airport using you guys. How do you see this reflected in your day-to-day and the challenges? How do you manage them, and what do you expect from your providers in that sense?
So as a very user-focused company, the key things that we want to look forward is we want to be where our customer is. So if our customer is going to use agentic world, then we have to be ready for that. But if our customer continues to do not trust agents, but actually build their go to their app and go and book their cab, then we also have to be there. So we have to be ready for what might come in the future. And it might be possible the way agentic ecosystem is evolving, that maybe 5 years from today, from today, we might not have a checkout page. The challenges that we were discussing earlier of checkout failures, we might not have any of that. We might not have any of the 3DS drop-offs because agent has the agency to go and complete the transaction. He has all the credentials and everything, and then there is no chance of having a drop-off. But we are far from there, and there are challenges that we need to solve for today. And if you see, as a consumer, today you look for the brand, and Uber stands for trust and safety. But that's because you as a user look for the brand and safety because you see the logo, you see the statistics of how many crimes happen in a normal cab versus Uber and all. But when an agent is making decision, he's not looking at the brand recognition. He doesn't know what logos you see on the street. When an agent is making decision, he wants to look for the data-enriched APIs. And that's where a global company like Uber will have an edge, because we have the data points. We have enough data points to enrich our APIs to provide to the agents a precise ETA, a precise pickup point, a precise drop-off point. Especially think 5 years from now, if you have to be picked up by an autonomous car, you're standing outside the airport, you're standing outside a concert, and you don't know where exactly the autonomous vehicle will come and pick you up. But based on the data points that we have collected over the years, we know precisely where is that going to happen. So I think that's where the difference between an agentic ecosystem and how do you build that trust will happen from today. And commerce is just going to be an enabler in that, not necessarily the only way to do the business there.
Yeah, fascinating. Now, Brice, obviously Mastercard is big into agentic AI, and everybody, I mean, last year I said agentic AI is going to come. This is the future. How far away are we from scalable, safe agentic AI, and what are you doing at Mastercard to get us there? Because it takes time, takes care to roll this out. This is not something you can throw into the population. You need to sandbox it well and take it step by step. We'll be quite excited to hear from you.
Good morning, everyone. I'm very excited to be here again. I think you beautifully introduced the topic. AI is the topic that everybody is indeed talking about today. And we were just kind of comparing our respective experience in payment, right? I've been 20 years this year in the payment, and what I've learned from those 20 years is that it takes time to get to scale, right? Contactless was a very good example. That was actually my first job in 2006 at Mastercard, to define the interchange for contactless. It took 10 years, right? And everybody, you know, when COVID arrived, said, oh, yeah, COVID was the thing that unlocked contactless. But that was 2019, so think about it, 13 years to make it happen. So I think that's a big lesson. 3D is the same, EMV, chip and PIN, same thing, right? E-commerce also took 10 years. So I think we just need to be patient a little bit. But what I would say is that the ingredients to make it a success are already there, right? I'll talk a little bit more about that. But I think you have consumer demand that is there. People are now shifting fundamentally from a search into Google into AI, because the quality of what you get is much better. The standards are also there, right? You have multiple standards, right? The one from the LLMs that are out there, but we have also the standards around payment. And so you need standards in order to build global interoperability and make those things happen. So I think this is, there's a lot of things that are already there. We have been able to process the first token transaction already, right, in 1 year time, which, if you think again about how contactless took so much time, this is actually amazing, right? We've done a fantastic job. So we will take there are loads and loads of challenges. Adyen actually did a very good paper that was issued a couple of days ago, listing all the things that needs to be done, right, that are still not working. But I think this is also a recognition that we're getting there. We identify the things that we need to work on, and some people, including hopefully Adyen, will figure out ways to make it happen. So we're pretty good on, at this point in time, I think.
Excellent. Now, Atze, in terms of the merchants, right? How do you see this adoption, the challenges? Have you had interactions with your members in EuroCommerce in terms of the agentic AI? How fast or slow they're keen to adopt, to test? And the cyber concerns, I mean, does people see those?
Well, it's a fair point. It's always this, balance between convenience and security, let's say friction. I think it's still early days. When I talk to my members, they are watching it, but I think it's more in the background that they're using AI than in the sort of customer-facing a bit so far. But it's definitely something on the, let's say, watch list. I think, however, that there are, let's say, bigger priorities right now than that. There's this whole resilience thinking, especially in this day and age where there is threats from, different parts of the world. Balanced with a need for simplification. So, I liked Juan's point around, you want to have a one-stop shop in the end. But do you really? Because that would mean you put all your eggs in one basket, and then if something goes wrong, what do you do? So resilience and simplification, you need to find a balance. And I think that's hard, because if you want to be resilient, that means by definition it will be more complex. I'll just give the example around cash. In the Nordic countries, there's discussions ongoing, you know, the availability of cash or offline card payments, but that's adding complexity for the reasons of resilience. So I'm not really answering your question, but I think those topics are more on the, let's say, priority list as agentic AI.
So I'm hearing a little bit like autonomy, European autonomy, potentially something we will debate this week for sure. And I guess that sort of don't put all your eggs in one basket, third-party concentration risk, which of course all of us might have experienced when the ring went down because of AWS having an instance fall over, right? So I think it's the realization, having an industry that outsourced almost everything over the last 3 decades, to realize, where did I outsource, how much concentration do I have? And I think that is an ongoing theme which has a regulatory angle with DORA and NIS2 and all of these things, but it's really also a prudence of doing business element, right? Making sure you have a backup, you have an alternative, because we do see things, even big ones, hacked, where we thought they could never get hacked, or have an issue and we don't know what it is, and suddenly you have a problem. Ugnè, from a payable perspective, I mean, all of this complexity, you're managing the complexity for the merchants, right? Yeah. So how, I mean, are there aspects of AI that you're using? Are there aspects of, I guess, resilience programming in your approach around helping the merchant to get the spaghettis all streamlined into one Autobahn?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a very nice way that you put it, that you have to streamline everything for the client. So sort of you chew it up and you make it, you know, more easier, you know, and for them to work with. But if you look at merchants, what we discussed already, I think I will also repeat myself as well, is that the complexity is really big, and AI, of course, is adding to it, right? So it's kind of like a double-edged sword. So we use it obviously for, you know, for fraud prevention, for streamlining, you know, payments better and giving, you know, back to the clients. But if we look for the future and we see, you know, how, for example, agentic AI might work, right? There's also a lot of room for fraudsters to be very innovative and also to use that, you know, against the merchants. So this is also something, you know, that needs to be anticipated, and it's not only by the payment service providers, but the industry as a whole. So adding another layer of complexity, adding another point to look at, it's really, you know, quite complicated. And merchants are really operating in a very difficult environment when you think about it, right? Is the operations at stake, right? And the cost of fraud is not only a financial cost, right? It hurts, you know, their brand, and it's something that, you know, that they have to think, you know, day to day. And we've conducted a study at payabl last year on fraud in Europe, European-based merchants. And what we found out is that merchants are spending at least 22 working days a year only on fraud alone. So meaning that either figuring out, you know, scams, or dealing with fraudulent transactions, or fraudulent returns, or anything, you know, of that sort. So imagine you take 22 working days out of a year, just focus on that, and that takes away from being resilient maybe in some other ways, right? So having a partner that at least understands those and simplifies in a way that, okay, understands the technology, understands, you know, what is coming, you know, forward, and what is there, you know, to come, I think is very important. And I do agree, maybe there is not one platform, you know, that can do it all, but certainly, you know, the merchants choose the right partner, and usually the right partner will take care of the rest, right? So we, as a payment service provider, that's what we're there for, to remove at least some of that complexity and make sure, you know, that the transactions run smooth, and at least that the clients have a little bit less, you know, to think about day to day.
Yeah, yeah. Juan, I mean, fraud is one big theme this week, of course, as usual. But I guess when we talk about the cross-border payments and that complexity and the fact that there is also a lot of fraud, when you think about all these converging trends, AI, automation, orchestration, different connectivity, different asset classes, I guess, again, the example, you may end up paying in Tether as opposed to fiat euro. how do you see this evolution from a Bank of America perspective in how you, I guess, innovate and handhold your clients to, again, streamline the spaghetti into the Autobahn?
Yeah, that's a great question. And from a cross-border perspective, we really tend to focus on the very large clients and customize it for them. So what are the currencies that you're looking to authorize in? What are the currencies you're looking to settle in? What type of funding are we able to offer? What type of business are you bringing to the firm? There's different options that are available, whether it's a pre-fund, next day, but it all depends specifically on that client and determining if it's something that is doable, keeping in mind that there is the potential for fraud and that there is risk involved there when you start thinking about the various currencies, the inflation, all those items that you have to keep in mind. I think we're going to start to see big inroads in cross-border when we start talking about stablecoin. And traditionally, when we talked about stablecoin, crypto played a role in it, and there was too much risk involved in it in terms of, what is a Bitcoin today versus what it's going to be tomorrow. Once we truly have a guide around stablecoin, I really think we're going to start to see some inroads in terms of cross-border, and then start seeing some innovation truly happen within that area. So that is something that we're taking a look at very closely, but then also using tools like AI to make sure that we're able to mitigate the risk associated with it as well. The other item that I would mention around agentic commerce is that from a consumer perspective, we've seen a lot of focus on customer-initiated agentic commerce, where the customer is still making the final decision. So you go into ChatGPT, you're looking for a black sweater, it gives you different options associated with it, but the consumer still decides which ones they want to proceed with. I think merchants today are ready to move forward with agentic commerce when it's customer initiated. When it's non-customer initiated, it brings a lot more risk, and we're waiting to understand how that's going to evolve. A consumer goes out there and says, plan a trip for me and make all the bookings for me. So it's booking airfare, it's booking hotels, it's booking everything that goes along with it, and the agent's actually doing it. There's a lot of questions there in terms of fraud, in terms of who actually made the transaction, how is a chargeback going to work. So there's still a lot there that needs to be unfolded before we move into that next phase of agentic commerce. So that is a main item that we're currently looking at to see how that continues to evolve and how that's going to play in market as well.
Yeah, I mean, in fact, we already read about disputes, right? I didn't buy this, my AI agent did. And I mean, in cyber circles, you will know these are the things that get poisoned from the top. It's very easy to compromise an agent and make it do things. And of course, that's when the risk comes, when you connect that to your payment card, to your treasury account, to whatever value you have. As soon as you connect that, and that's why I'm always saying don't connect it just yet, this can go wrong because the agent may go off and just spend the money on something else.
In the last piece, also, sorry, Ruth, to interrupt, that I would mention is that with these large language models, there are hallucinations. So let's say you put a city out there, and it's not the city that you were thinking of, and it's sending you to a completely different city in a completely different country. So there's still a lot there that is concerning that we got to make sure that we get it right.
Totally. I wanted to go to Paris, but not Paris, Texas. Right?
Exactly.
So that's exactly the point. But you're bringing up, of course, stablecoins and CBDCs, digital euro. These are all things that are happening. And I guess with stablecoins is a great example. It was designed because Bitcoin was too volatile. Is it always one-to-one? It's not. People are also arbitraging in the market. The regulation is coming. It's not yet really fully in place when we think about the Genius Act implementation. And of course, supervision is critical because you have a new form of counterparty risk, which is very different than maybe using a tokenized bank deposit that goes fully under the Basel rules, right? So you need to understand what's the asset class, who's issuing it, who's got the liability. Yes, it might look more efficient in a closed loop circle, but if you add the on and off ramp, there's another story to think about as well. So we're not yet in this brave new world, but we're feeling our way through. Maybe Atze, digital euro, is that something that your members are looking at? Because clearly the ECB's here, it's happening, right? It's going to happen.
So I think I'm not exaggerating when I'm saying that the merchants are probably the biggest fan, although it is a conditional fan. Conditional that certain things around the digital euro are happening, in particular the fee model. We insist it's called a fee model and that compensation, that's just a euphemism for charging stuff. So fee model, if that is sorted out properly, and the discussion is ongoing in the European Parliament right now, the negotiations between the different political groups. So we are seeing a lot of potential in the digital euro. It's actually a publicly issued stablecoin, for want of a better comparison. So whether it's private or, public issued, you can debate about. But I think it is important to have the digital euro there. As a way for resilience, I just mentioned earlier, in these geopolitical turbulent times, it is good to be laying it out as an infrastructure that enables providers and merchants to connect to it easily. That is, to my earlier point of simplification, the ease of integration, consistent user experience, and so on. And then, last but not least, it is filling the sort of the vision of where the market is going. And I think there should be much more convergence, coherence in that sort of policy making. I sometimes, mention the example of the UK, this national payments vision. You can argue it's a bit of a marketing gimmick maybe, but the idea behind it that, should the EU have something similar, where policymakers say this is what we would see happening for Europe. We're not saying exactly how and the when, but more the what and the why. That I think would help balancing this simplification, reduction of complexity, a reduction of fragmentation with resilience and being prepared for the future. So is the digital euro going to take away a huge volume of payments, away from Mastercard or from cash or from, account-to-account payments? I don't think so. It will, have its place in the ecosystem. And just to a bit of a provocation maybe here, we are very keen to have this euro as a tool to keep the banks honest. So quote me on that, please. I'd love to discuss.
Excellent. Well, so watch out for Atze and his members, right? So CBDC, stable coins, clearly here the issuance would be the liability of the central bank, which is considered obviously a little bit safer. But when it comes to changing the world of commerce, is it going to be tech-led, consumer-driven? What do you think, Anurag?
I think that's so technology is definitely moving way fast than how fast it can be adopted. So the technology is definitely leading the change, but then the merchants are going to be looking for the optimization. Very, very practical example, OpenAI started the platform with a charging 4% fee. That did not go well, and eventually they had to fold it back. And I think merchant has to look for optimization, and they have to draw borders of what they can do and what they cannot let happen, where they have to take care of the disintermediation risk on agentic AI platforms as well. And all of that can still happen, but it's all going to be validated by consumer. So merchants can optimize, but finally the technology is going to be validated by what consumer wants to do and what they trust in. So that's the real truth.
And as we said, it could end up being all done by a machine at the end of the day. It could well be that you have no more checkout. The consumer
Probably.
just says, we talked about programmable money for a long time, programmable payments. We're now thinking programmable money, programmable payment in a programmable agent, right? So I guess then the challenge is, how do you program everything correctly and understand what you're programming if I'm the user? If you have very simple orders, silver boots, that price, not more, and that is executed according to that request, that's a neat story. If it gets more complicated, as Juan said, that's when you start questioning who was it, who's got liability, how could I identify it wasn't a human, it was an agent, and if it falls down, who's going to bear the financial brunt? And I think, just as a reminder, the regulatory regime in Europe is further tightening when it comes to PSB liability around these transactions. So this is going to continue. Brice, your sort of agent approach, are we starting with very simple programmability to test it? Maybe just examples if you have some.
Look, I think indeed the complexity is where the devil is in the detail, right? It's we want to make sure ourselves for our own brand, but I think this is also very true for all the large language model. They want to make these things right because they know that if they don't do these things right, they will lose customers, right? They will lose merchants, they will lose consumers. And so there's a very, very big focus to make sure that we're doing things right from the beginning. And this is why we're starting with simple things, right? We mentioned a couple of examples of, hey, I'm using one agent to purchase one single item at one particular merchant. That's a straightforward example, and I'll make a little bit of a demo there later on. But then you can start thinking, okay, to your example, your example, Ruth, about I'm going to travel to Paris, and please book me the taxi, the airline tickets, the hotel, the restaurant, the touristic attraction. Then you're going to start working with multiple merchants, always through one agent, and that becomes a little trickier, right? So how do you manage that? And then the most interesting, but also the most difficult one will be when you completely delegate to the agent the act of purchasing on your behalf, and the consumer is no longer there, right? We always use this terminology of the cardholder present, right? If the cardholder is no longer present, what happens once you send your agent to buy, I don't know, the concert of Lady Gaga that is going to be only for sale in 1 month's time, and you'll be probably sleeping while this is going on sale? I mean, wouldn't that be great, right? But if they buy you, I don't know, Guns N' Roses tickets, maybe you're not going to be happy. So these are all the things that we're trying.
I'd be happy. That would be my concert. Sorry.
I actually like both, but I think this is what we're trying to capture, and there's a whole concept of intent and consent of the consumer. Again, I'll go deeper on it, but this is how we're trying to fix this as an industry.
Yeah, step by step, right? Really baby steps.
Exactly.
Right? Now, we have a few minutes left. I think I'd like to ask each one of you some sort of predictions, maybe into the next year, next 2 years, starting with Juan. What do you think is really going to happen this year? Because we kind of predicted well from last year to this. So let's find another way to look into the future here.
Sure, absolutely. So there's likely going to continue to be a couple of different trends that we're going to continue to see. Number one is, merchants are going to continue to focus on the cost of acceptance. I think we're likely going to continue to see other forms of payment methods make its way, things like pay by bank and others that allow merchants to be able to reduce their cost of acceptance. We're going to continue to see the growth of agentic commerce, and we're going to start to see merchants adopt those types of solutions and be first to market. There's likely still a question out there in terms of what happens with marketplaces. So, likely with the agentic commerce, it's like one big marketplace. So it's like, what's the strategy going to be around retailers and merchants out there that have their own marketplaces? So I think we're likely going to see some development there in terms of how that continues to transpire. And we're going to see the adoption of additional growth globally from merchants looking to launch into new countries, into new regions, and looking to see how they can partner together with some of the complexities around regulation, payment orchestration, technology, and seeing who are some of the right providers out there that gives them the ability to be able to launch in new regions and new markets, leveraging light technology in order to be able to ease how they go to market and their product offering as well.
Excellent. Brice, I'll leave your fire for the presentation. So,
but I think there's still going to be a few things aside of AI, right? I mean, and maybe in Europe, we can expect that this year we'll see the first agentic token transaction initiated by a European merchants and acquirer. So that that already happened in other part of the world, but we know that this is going to happen this year in Europe. So that's going to be a big thing. The other to your point, Juan, the other thing that will happen this year in Europe is the first settlement in stablecoin, right? So we are enabling this as a network, and this is something which obviously will answer a lot of the questions about how do we optimize cross-border settlement. So that's going to happen as well this year. The third thing that will happen, and a little bit like around the topic of sovereignty and resilience, we're very, very conscious as a company that this is a big topic in Europe, right? We've just announced that we're investing into data centers in Paris. So we will actually see Mastercard.
Not Texas.
Thank you. That's a good catch.
And a good one, right?
So Paris, France, where you have the Eiffel Tower.
Nice.
just in case you didn't realize what I was talking about. So we have now 3 data centers there, and we will start processing Mastercard transaction from Paris, with the intention, of course, to increase the resilience of the network, and also making sure that, if a cable is cut between the 2 continents, these transactions can continue to function for European merchant and citizen. That's number 3. And the 4th one, and this is more for the card network specialists. For the longest time, we've been always having a delay between the moment of the authorization and the actual settlement of the funds, right? It can be between 1 to 2 days or 3 days, or in Brazil, it can be 40 days, right? But now we are actually changing the way our network is functioning, so that we are not only doing online authorization, but we will also do clearing online, meaning for each authorization, we will be having the clearing happening instantly, but we are also upgrading the way we're doing settlement. We will moving from a 5 days a week settlement, so once every working day, to a 7 days a week settlement, and also multiple settlement cycle per day. So that's going to be a big shift, and we believe it's going to be of enormous value for merchants who will be able to collect the funds way before then. Of course, we'll have intermediaries, we'll have acquirers and all of that in the flow, but from a Mastercard perspective, we're making sure that from our end, we're enabling these things to happen. So a lot of things to happen this year. So I'll look a little bit tired probably next year.
The settlement piece really takes out the risk as well for the whole network, right?
Exactly.
So that's excellent. Ugnè.
Good day. I came to MPE to find out all of these good things. It's hard, I think, to add to what was already said. I do have to agree with Juan that I think a lot of focus will come aside from these new developments. Will still come from working through the regular complexity and just making things better for merchants in general. Combining the fraud prevention, making sure, that the acceptance, is better, making sure that, you can accept payments, in places that you want to, and also take into account all of the things that are happening. Maybe it's a very unpopular opinion that, I don't really feel that anything, groundbreaking will take place in the next year, but I think the focus should be still on making things, operationally better for the clients, and it's still not perfect. So, I mean, all of the things also that Brice, mentioned, about how long it takes to adopt, we are still in that process. So years to come, we will still be chipping away and improving with some glimpses of great, interesting things, that come our way. So I think really the focus will be that. And I'm really looking forward to see in a few years how far we manage to chip away.
Excellent. So it's about executing well, really.
Correct.
Anurag.
There are a few things. I think we'll also see a new class of merchants. A lot of vibe coders will start to build their own business and start to execute these agents to get their work done. So that's like a new category of merchants that we'll probably see, and they will try to use the platforms like Uber Direct and other things to get the services delivered. We'll also see a lot of merchants like Uber. We also want to train our users on baby use cases of using Agentic World, like book me, reorder my last food delivery, or very simple use case of just book me a cab to airport, or book me a trip back from airport. So we'll use the agentic ecosystem to train our users to take baby steps and trust the ecosystem. That's what I can see can happen probably in the short term of next 1 year.
Great. Atze.
So I'm going to disagree with you, Juan, that costs are the focus of merchants. Of course, there is the element of cost, but I'm always saying there's this balance between the value and the cost. If you have a very expensive payment method that is very smooth, it's not going to work. If it's very cheap and it isn't working, that's not going to work. So finding that right balance in the mix, I think in the end is more important than just the cost. So what's going to, some things we're looking forward to are the European solutions, both account to account and hopefully digital euro. at some point in time. This is in the context of the resilience I mentioned earlier. But I made my point that merchants want to become more vocal. We're a little bit fed up that things are done to us. So as providers here in the room as well, I would strongly recommend you take a stance to work with merchants or even for merchants from the merchant perspective and make life easier. I think that will go a long way in having a fruitful relationship that generates value at a fair cost.
Excellent. It's all about merchants. We're at the MPE, the Merchant Payment Ecosystem Conference. Work with the merchants, manage your cyber risk, manage innovation, but test it well. Don't jump into it because that can go wrong. I would like to thank very much my awesome panel. We totally overran, and thank you for listening.